Imagine a nation that rose from ashes twice, a land divided by a wall yet united by an unbreakable will, where empires fell, borders shifted, and a people rebuilt from utter ruin to become Europe's powerhouse. This is Germany. And today, we're going to uncover 5 defining moments, the wichtig Ereignisse, that changed this country and the world forever. Welcome to Zeitreise Deutschland, your journey through German history. If you love epic stories of courage, downfall, and incredible rebirth, you are in the right place. So let's travel through time, from the founding of an empire to the fall of a wall. Our story begins in Berlin, 1871. The air is thick with triumph and anticipation. For centuries, the German-speaking lands were a fragmented patchwork of kingdoms, duchies, and principalities. But now, after a series of calculated political maneuvers and decisive wars, Germany is finally becoming one nation under its first emperor, Kaiser Wilhelm II. The mastermind behind this monumental event is Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor. Through a brilliant and often ruthless mix of diplomacy, military force, and sheer determination, he engineered this unification. The climax? The proclamation of the German Empire, not in Berlin, but in the opulent Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles. A deliberate power move aimed at Germany's old rival, France. This moment marks the birth of a new and formidable European power. The industrial might, scientific innovation, and military strength of a unified Germany would soon reshape the continent's balance of power. However, this glorious beginning also sowed the seeds of future conflicts. The ambitions of this new empire would set it on a collision course with its neighbors, setting the stage for the cataclysmic events of the 20th century. A new chapter had begun, full of promise but also shadowed by a future no one could yet imagine. Fast forward just a few decades to 1918. The glorious empire is gone. The Great War, a conflict of unprecedented scale and brutality, has bled Germany dry. 4 years of trench warfare, naval blockades, and staggering casualties have led to defeat, widespread hunger, and revolutions sweeping across the nation. The once mighty Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicates and flees, leaving a power vacuum in his wake. From this chaos, the Weimar Republic is declared. It's Germany's first real attempt at a parliamentary democracy, born in a time of profound crisis. The early years were marked by political instability, assassinations, and hyperinflation so extreme that people used wheelbarrows of cash to buy a loaf of bread. The Treaty of Versailles, with its harsh terms and war guilt clause, left a deep scar of national humiliation and resentment. Yet despite this turmoil, the Weimar era was also a period of incredible cultural explosion. It was the age of the Bauhaus movement in architecture, the groundbreaking films of directors like Fritz Lang, the revolutionary science of Albert Einstein, and the decadent, vibrant cabaret scenes of Berlin. This was a time of creative freedom and social experimentation unlike anything Germany had seen before. But beneath this glittering surface, the foundations of the Republic were fragile. The deep-seated resentment, economic hardship, and political extremism were gathering strength, creating a fertile ground for the dark forces that would soon plunge Germany and the world into its darkest chapter. Now we arrive at 1933, a year that forever altered the course of history. The global economic depression had shattered the fragile stability of the Weimar Republic. Millions were unemployed, and people were desperate for a strong leader to restore order and national pride. On January 30th, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. What followed was a swift and terrifying descent into totalitarianism. Democracy was dismantled within months. Civil liberties were extinguished, political opponents were imprisoned or killed, and a pervasive cult of personality was built around the Führer. The Nazi regime weaponized propaganda, using rallies, radio, and film to spread its ideology of racial purity and nationalistic fervor. Fear became an instrument of control. This dark chapter led directly to the Second World War, a conflict that engulfed the globe and resulted in unimaginable destruction. And at the heart of this war was the Holocaust, the systematic state-sponsored genocide of 6 million Jews and millions of other victims. It stands as a crime of such magnitude that it continues to haunt the conscience of humanity, a permanent stain on history and a terrible warning of where hatred can lead. By 1945, the war was over. Germany lay in absolute ruins. Its cities were flattened by bombing raids. Its economy had collapsed. Millions of its people were dead or displaced, and the moral soul of the nation was shattered by the horrors it had unleashed. But even from this total devastation, from this Stunde Null or 0 hour, a new beginning was waiting to emerge from the rubble. The question was, what kind of Germany would it be? After the war, the victorious Allied powers, the United States, the Soviet Union, Great Britain, and France, divided Germany and its capital, Berlin, into 4 occupation zones. The hope for a united, peaceful Germany quickly faded as ideological tensions between the democratic West and the communist Soviet Union escalated into the Cold War. By 1949, 2 separate German states were officially formed. In the West, the Federal Republic of Germany, or West Germany, was established as a parliamentary democracy, aligned with the US and Western Europe. It soon experienced the Wirtschaftswunder, the economic miracle, a period of astonishingly rapid industrial recovery and prosperity. In the East, the German Democratic Republic, or East Germany, became a socialist state under the tight control of the Soviet Union. Life there was defined by state surveillance, a planned economy, and a lack of personal freedom. Berlin, located deep inside East Germany but itself divided, became the flashpoint of the Cold War. To stop the flood of its citizens fleeing to the more prosperous West, the East German government, in 1961, erected the Berlin Wall, a brutal barrier of concrete, barbed wire, and watchtowers that tore through the city. Families were split, friends were separated, and for nearly 3 decades the wall stood as the most potent symbol of a world divided by an iron curtain. 2 Germanys, 2 opposing worlds, but one people whose hearts still beat for unity. Our final moment brings us to November 9th, 1989. For weeks, protests for freedom had been swelling across East Germany. The pressure was immense. That evening, during a routine press conference, an East German official mistakenly announced that the travel restrictions would be lifted, effective immediately. The news spread like wildfire. Confused but hopeful, crowds of East Berliners began to gather at the checkpoints along the wall. The border guards, overwhelmed and without clear orders, were faced with a decision: open fire or open the gates. And then, the impossible happened. The barriers were raised. What followed was one of the most joyous and emotional scenes of the 20th century. People streamed through, met by cheering West Berliners on the other side. There were tears, hugs, and champagne. Strangers embraced. People climbed onto the wall, dancing and chipping away at the hated symbol of division with hammers and chisels. It was a night of pure, unadulterated freedom. The world watched, captivated, as a wall that had stood for 28 years came down not with bombs or bullets, but with the sheer will of the people. This single magical night effectively ended 40 years of division and signaled the end of the Cold War. It paved the way for German reunification a year later, marking the dawn of a new era for a unified democratic Germany, at the heart of a free Europe. From empire to ashes, from division to unity, Germany's story is one of profound tragedy and extraordinary resilience. These wichtige Ereignisse aren't just dates in a textbook. They are powerful lessons in the dangers of nationalism, the fragility of democracy, the consequences of hatred, and ultimately, the incredible power of hope and the human spirit to rebuild and reunite. If you enjoyed this journey through time, please show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. Join me for the next episode of Zeitreise Deutschland, where we'll uncover more forgotten kings, secret wars, and the legends that shaped German history. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.